All right, 49ers. 2021 came in with win expectation of 10. Met expectations, went 10-7, went 9-8 ATS, a $100 unit better, essentially broke even. A lot of volatility from the Niners, kind of up and down, up and down. Their weekly power rank volatility was about 3.3 spots. Their mean power rank was 14. Their opponent mean power rank was 15. Pythag 1.0 had them around 10 wins. Pythag 2.0 had it around 10 wins. They actually had 10 wins. So it seems like you take a step back and the averages were like, oh yeah, that's what we expected. But, kind of in between, there was a bunch of kind of volatility.
This team had a lot of injuries throughout the course of last season, and I think some of that volatility may factor in there. They had key guys out at different times during the season.
It also just corresponds generally to what we know of the Niners, right? Which is conference championship, badly missed the playoff.
Yeah.
Conference championship. This team is just extremely variant and volatile. And that's only added with Trey Lance coming in.
A lot of disagreement in the market around the promise of Trey Lance. There's some that are completely writing him off, that, that's certainly not going to work out. And then some that think that he has a massive high ceiling. And maybe that speaks to how the team is positioning around Trey Lance as well, because you're talking about, again, they were potentially one play away from potentially going to the Super Bowl last year, returning to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years. And now you're saying, we need a quarterback change. And we're not saying always that was Jimmy G was unilaterally responsible for even getting the Niners there, but he did provide the stability. But now you have a more volatile quarterback, the head of your team. And maybe for that reason now, it doesn't come together. We saw him play twice last year. Neither game was very good.
I mean, does the situation not remind you a little bit of the Kansas City Chiefs when they had Alex Smith? They didn't feel they could get over the top with him. They went with Mahomes. And I feel like San Francisco's kind of in a similar spot there. They have a talented roster, but you're right. We don't know what we're going to get with Trey Lance. Could this be another Kansas City Chiefs situation where he comes out and lights it up? Or is he not that guy, in which case all of a sudden everything changes there? And unfortunately, that's just something that it's impossible to know until we have a little more data.
Yeah, that's a very actually salient parallel. In the Chiefs instance, again, they were still making the playoffs, still had a relatively explosive offense. I mean, Alex Smith was able to take advantage of Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, etc. Certainly not the way that Mahomes has since done. But there was obviously something that the coaching staff saw in KC through practice and whatnot that made them feel comfortable saying, we have a good team, but we're comfortable moving on from the steady piece because it's just never going to be good enough, and we need more of a firecracker. And so maybe that can potentially speak volumes that the Niners see something that we don't necessarily see that gives them even more conviction that they're comfortable moving on from Jimmy G. My only caveat there would be, is there a lot of pressure on Kyle Shanahan, the coaching staff, and just the organization writ large? Because they've already invested a shit ton in Trey Lance. I mean, 3 first-round picks? I mean, you have to give him the keys. You have to. The thing is, what I would push back on what you're saying, Jude, around there's a lot of question marks around Trey Lance, but this is not the Cardinals 8.5. I don't think this is pricing in really even that much uncertainty. This is saying it's going to work. You do not have a 10-win expectation for a team that has a lot of question marks. If it was 8.5, I would say definitely strongly agree. The market is uncertain how good Trey Lance is going to be. Well, this, to me, is saying they think Trey Lance is going to be good.
A question of how much the market is pricing in Trey Lance, which is that.
Sure, so even the delta, the delta between Jimmy G and Trey Lance, is net positive?
I don't know, but I think the market's basically saying there's no difference at all. I think they're projecting 20th best quarterback.
I think the big difference between when we look at the Cardinals and the 49ers is just the roster. I mean, they're basically saying we can put anybody at quarterback in San Francisco, and they've got enough pieces and coaching around that person to be successful. But Lance did look really good in their preseason game. And again, we can't put a lot of credibility or a lot of stock into that. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for
he looked good last preseason too.
But at least when you look at that, I think you can look and be encouraged and say, hey, it's not like he went out and just fell on his face there. So, but I think you're spot on, though. I think they're looking at that and saying, Jimmy G, Trey Lance, whoever, throw whoever back there at quarterback, and this team's going to find a way to win 10 games.
Even to add to your point, a ton of continuity on this team, as you see. It's just the quarterback position.
Sure.
That's the only thing that's changed.
And I do like that point, too. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback, because we've seen Shanahan has made work of guys like Beathard, Mullins. The thing is, again, I don't know if Trey Lance is going to be the 20th best quarterback. I feel like he's going to be like a top 8 quarterback or a bottom 2 quarterback. Like, I just feel like that's the skew, and which makes me like not comfortable with something like a 10.
I think the question of Trey Lance is also like, are they going to unleash Trey Lance at all? Right? He might just play the kind of Jimmy Garoppolo game. If Kyle Shanahan really is this genius, he'll make life extremely easy for him.
So when we look at the schedule, this is one of the easier schedules within the NFC West, in fact. So I guess that could help support this 10. Got a breeze in the first 6 weeks here. I'm a little bit down on the Broncos. I could see the Niners being 5-1, and they get to play the Rams at home on prime time. So again, some a little extra enthusiasm there as well. This is a good way to kind of bring a new quarterback online. Even look at the back end. The back end is not even that intimidating.
There's no guarantee in the NFL. We know that, but they've got half a dozen what I think most people would consider layups on their schedule. There's a little less pressure there, and like you said, especially if they start out hot there, if they're 5-1 or even 4-2. It gives Lance that cushion to maybe get comfortable, get in a groove where he can work out some of those early season bugs, if there are any.
Just one more data point here, which is if you look at the games they play against the AFC West and the NFC South, the divisions they play, they have the bottom teams in that division, Carolina and the Falcons and the Broncos and the Raiders all away, which means they're playing the toughest opponents actually all at home. Chargers, the Bucks, the Saints, all at home.
Good call out. Yeah, and that kind of just feeds into this, kind of having a 13th easiest schedule, certainly the easiest schedule that we've seen thus far when previewing these NFC West teams.